Welcome to the information age. Data everywhere, but no one knows a thing. By Roger Kimball. Now, what does this mean? There is data everywhere. Anytime you do anything, you are producing a chunk of data. And no one knows a thing. What does that mean? Until someone makes a meaning from those chunk of data, data is absolutely useless. Until someone makes a meaning of it. You know, in the organization, personal day life, we generate data. The number of steps you take every day from wherever you walk to is data. If you have smartwatches on you, you can be calculating, your steps and everything you do. But remain there until someone picks the data and begins to make sense of it. And that's the essence of what we will be doing and generally what data analysis is all about. So data analysis is the process of collecting, cleaning, processing raw data, and extracting actionable, relevant information that helps businesses to make informed decisions. Now, I saw something on Abiodun's status, and it says, gone are those days that data analysis is just a skill you should have. Gone are those days. Now, it is a requirement. But, the basics of all this analysis is spreadsheet. And that's what we use so much around here. If you are thinking of not getting your hands dirty with data before now, please change that thought. It's a requirement everywhere now. And that's why we want to expose us. This training is just to expose us. Most of the work will be done by you digging your hands into the data and finding out why things are the way they are. The procedure helps reduce the risk inherent in decision making by providing useful insights and statistics, often presented in charts, images, tables, and graphs. Basically, this is what everybody needs to be doing per time. So why data analysis is for? It helps us for better customer targeting. Maybe you're into online, whatever, and you want to know the kind of customers you should be targeting. The data that your business have acquired over time will tell you that you should be focusing your attention on this part and not the other part. You will know your target customers better. Data analysis is a key tool to have now. Helps with better customer targeting. You will know your target customer better, reduce operational costs, better problem solving, and get more accurate data so that you can make more accurate decisions. Now, data analysis procedure is broken down into 5 major parts. And, in some sphere, you might have more than 5, but everything surrounds these 5. The first one is ask the right question. If you don't know the problem you are solving, you don't know the kind of data you want to collect, and you don't know the kind of outlook you are looking for. So asking the right question. We'll do some exercises now. You see that the same chunk of data we'll be using to solve diverse problems based on the question that we are trying to solve. That's the first step. It's not just getting into the data, it's asking the right question. And the next, when we have the questions around, we need to collect data to help answer those questions. That's the next step, which is data collection. When we collect the data, because it's a raw fact, raw information, that's what data is all about. We need to clean it and remove the anomalies, remove the duplicates, and make it, prepare it for analysis. And that's the next step, which is data analysis. Now we have the data, we've cleaned it. Let's begin to dig into the data and check for facts, trends, and patterns that speak to the question we are trying to solve. And the last part is this. Now we have seen patterns. We need to present, interpret the outcome, and present the data so that the other person on the other side can pick our recommendation and make informed
decisions. So we'll go through this cycle in a moment. Like I said, we'll be using Google Sheets, which is a free web application by Google that allows us to edit, organize, and do a whole lot with whatever data that we collect. Now, the key features of this, we all know, is all changes are saved automatically. Instant insight with Explore panel, we'll see that as we go. Real-time collaboration, and that's what we leverage on in this part of our business. Edit spreadsheets wherever you go. You can work on web, desktop, and all of that. Multiple spreadsheet files and formats are always linked and synced with Google Sheets. And that's the beauty of it anyways. Now, we will be diving into data analysis using Google Sheets specifically for this training, where we'll see data handling and all of that. Okay, if you are ready to go into the spreadsheet, I am ready to go with you. This is what we will be doing. We'll be having, two different sections. One has to do with data handling ethics, and the other we have to do with data analysis status. All right, this is going to be our to-do list. We will be starting with data handling ethics as regards the work that we do here and how to be, present data in a way that everybody will benefit from it and someone will not just distort the process we are doing. Now, data entry. Let me take us to this sheet and we'll be working with this as we go. Now, let's say, for instance, on this column J, we are supposed to put the number of desks we have in our classroom. And someone puts this, 56. And the other person puts this. Another person does this. Another person does that. Another person does this. Because that person has two classes put together. Now, what can you say about the entry on this row? And they have all put the correct numbers in their, classrooms. Someone does this. Now, for every column that we have, there's what we call data type. If anybody sees this, I can interpret that this person in row 3 is talking about 24, but the data type is not consistent. So it gives us a whole lot of problem, or whoever is interpreting this, a whole lot of problem. So in this wise, what should be defined should be what kind of data type is requested or required for this column, so that everybody works with that kind of data type. Eventually, it makes the analysis you want to do easier for you or anybody that wants to do it. Consistency. We have seen over time that some people just say we should fill this. Let's just put some values there and go. No, don't do that. You need to impute the correct data first, so that we can even get the correct output that we need. So let's be mindful of data input and entry and put the correct data type that it's required. I will show you all the data type later. Copying and pasting over time, you want to get the data from another document and you just paste it on another document. Now let me do this for example. Let's say this is what I want to do. I will just copy it and probably I want to put it somewhere here. I just paste it there and I leave it like this. Does this look nice to anybody? Obviously no. Obviously no. So if you are bringing or importing data from somewhere else, the right thing to do is to copy the data. Copy the data normally. Then wherever you want to impute it, you are not going to be pasting directly, just paste the values alone. You can right click if you're on desktop, or press and hold if you're on your tab, and you see paste special. Then you paste only the value. Now, if I click, see what comes up. It does not distort nor change the dynamics of my sheets, and every other thing is still like that. So let's be mindful of that when we are pasting our data. These are data handling stuff that we should also take note of. Filtering. For whatever reason, should you filter, and especially if you are working with a group of people, and look at what I want to do. Because I want to know about Ikeja alone, I filter and remove Ajeromi, and Ikeja only is showing. Now, what can you see on your side? You will be seeing Ikeja. If you are on this sheet, you will definitely be seeing only Ikeja. And you don't belong to Ikeja, you belong to Alimosho. I've denied every other person the right to manipulate with this data. So the wisest thing to do is to create a filter view. When you create a filter view, like I have here, create new filter view, whatever I do here remains with me. Anyone on this particular sheet will not see what I'm filtering. So I can filter normally here. And you can see the black something around it is telling me that, hey, the name of this filter is filter 1. You can even change the name to whatever. It is peculiar to you, and you can always revisit it anytime you want to work on this data. So it's peculiar to me. Anybody on this sheet wouldn't see my filtering, so they can go ahead with their work. And if I'm done, I'll just click this X. So don't just filter, create filter view that is peculiar to you. Now, if you can see, anytime I click on Gbenga, it brings the filter that I did because it is saved on my own system alone. All right, let's be mindful of that too. Another thing I really want us to talk about is sorting. For no reason should you sort a general data. For no reason. For no reason should you sort, because sorting might distort the architecture of the sheet, and you might be distorting what someone else is doing. And quickly, how do you even sort? Now, I want to sort this data from A to I. I'll just highlight my data. Then all right, then I go to data, I go to sort range, I go to advanced sorting, and maybe I want to sort according to schools. According to schools, first thing I do is my data has a header, so I must click that it has a header, otherwise it will sort the header with my data. Then I want to sort by school so that the schools are arranged in alphabetical order. I will just do that. If I want to sort by school, then by supervisor, I click again. If I want to sort by school, then by other thing, I click again. So that you arrange by school first, then each school by supervisor, and after that by regional manager. So when I click on sort, it does that. If you watch, the schools now are now arranged in alphabetical order, followed by the supervisors and all of that. So at no point should you sort a general table if you are not the only one working on it, unless you are the backend user that wants to do the analysis. Now, data validation. That is why sometimes we validate some columns, because we do not want something like this. Imagine I have validated this. Nobody will type in words 24, because I would have restricted the inputs to this column to what kind of data type I want you to impute there. So I'm going to do a quick example of a some data validation. Let's say the title of this column is, are you hungry? You know, straightforward is a yes or no question. You know, if I just put, are you hungry? Someone might go and put on some words. You know, we use these words well around here. So, and I just want to know a yes or no. What I just do is I select where I want you to impute, no matter how long it is. Then I go to my data. Then go to data validation. I want to restrict what you want can put in there. So I've already selected that range. You can see it here, J2 to J9. I will just come here and type what I want you to put there, separated by a comma. Now, it will show a drop down. Yes, this one is there. Now, if I leave it at show warning, someone can still type in a wrong data, but you just put a red dot that, oh, this data is wrong. But I would rather click reject inputs. I don't want you to make any mistake for me. Then I click on save. Okay. Okay, I'm supposed to select item, list of items. Then I put my item here and no. If I want to, if I already have my list somewhere on my sheet, that's when I'll use my range. But it's just a yes and no. I'll just click list of items. I'll just type separate it with comma so that I can have it. Now you can see on the sheet, I only have yes or no. Let's say for whatever reason, I want to put some words because I'm not sure whether I'm hungry or not. And I click enter. Can someone read what is showing on the screen?
The data you
violates the data validation rules set on this cell. Please enter one of the following values. Yes, no, okay.
Thank you very much for reading. This is what you get when you validate and restrict input, so that at the back end, when I'm counting the number of yeses, I'll get the accurate data. So things like somewhat or whatever will not come in. So that's about data validation. There are other stuff. Now, tick marks. Like I have here, sometimes you just want to, you know, you are drafting a project management sheet and you want to tick on tasks as you complete them. So instead of typing, you can just put tick marks like this and just click on them. Now, I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's say this is where I want to, let me remove what is here. All right, let's say I want to put that here. I'll just select the places I want the tick marks to be. Then I go to data validation, same data validation, go to your data validation option. Now, instead of selecting from range or list, I will scroll down to tick box. If I click on tick box, then it opens up this use custom value cell. Now, there will be a tick box there. What should that tick box represent? That's when I click on this box. Then, when it is ticked, what interpretation should it give? When it is unticked, what interpretation should it give? So, like the example here, you can put true when it is ticked or false when it is not ticked. So, if I want to do a yes or no, anybody that ticks says a yes. So, for ticked, I will put on yes. And for unticked, I'll put on no. Or whatever reason I want the ticked and the unticked to represent. And as usual, reject any input that is invalid. So if I click on OK now, you can see that the tick boxes are here. Now, I'm going to click into the first box, check my formula bar. What can you see here where my cursor is? Ozia, what can you see here? I can't seem to see anything.
No.
Okay, there's a no here. This is my formula, but I highlighted here. It's a no.
Yes, no.
Why is
Yeah.
it's a no? Why is it a no? It's a no because I've specified that if this box is not ticked, it should be a no. Now let me tick it now. It has changed to a yes. So I might even use tick box like this, but I can reference the cell when I'm doing my analysis, and every ticked one will be a yes. So I can still use these cells for analysis because ticked actually means yes, unticked actually means no. If I scroll down, you can see tick anyone to change to yes and all of that. So this is another way of making your sheet analysis very neat and will help you to, arrange your data very well. Now we'll go to the next section. Before we go, do I have any question up until this moment? All right, if we don't have, now let's do some analysis using this data here. I'm going to start with count. Count is the simplest thing you want to do. You have so many data entries, you just want to know how many. Now, we will be working with this data. Let's know
Sorry,
what
Gbenga.
count
Good morning.
does. Yes, dear.
Hello, Gbenga. Sorry to interrupt. Can I go ahead?
No problem, Shey. Please.
All right. What you just did now, your box that you ticked, when you ticked, what you wrote under column B were disappearing. So how did you do that?
Okay. All right. Thank you for that question. I've already, conditioned it that anytime I click this should go away. It should give me an insight that I'm done with that. So I've done some formatting there that anytime this one is done, you can see it is done that I put here. If it is unticked, it's not done. So you can put anything. Anytime it is done, I have conditioned that whatever is here should go away. Should I go into how I did that? Okay, it's not difficult. Now it's called
Yes.
it is called conditional formatting. Conditional formatting. Now I will show you quickly. I want to format everything that is here based on whatever that is here. So what I do is I will highlight that place I want my formatting to reflect. Go to format. Under format, I have what is called conditional formatting. As the word says, conditional. A condition should be met before this formatting should apply. So when I click it, it brings out some options for me at this end. Now, if you are seeing my screen, this right-hand side, you will see that that's brought out apply to range. The range I highlighted is here, B2 to B15. So what I did was to put a formula. You can do any kind of conditional formatting. You can say, if anything is empty, put something else. If it is not, put something else. If a text here contains any value, put something. These are options that you can use. If the date is this, if the value is less than or greater than, do something else. But what I want to do is not here, right? So that's when you go to custom formula if. So what I just did was to click custom formula if. I now say, when you click custom formula if, it opens up a box. So in this box, it's asking you, what formula do you want this condition to meet for this formatting to take place? I now said, in Excel, you start everything with is equal to. So I type equal to, and I said, anytime C2, this is C2 here, equals done. If you are putting text, in spreadsheet, text means words. You must put it in quotation mark, double quotation. And that's what I've done. So if C2 is done, equals done, what should you do? Look at the formatting style here. I said 1. I clicked on this, strike through. Then I changed the color to a very lighter one. Now let me change it again. You will see the difference now. If I put on this color, can you see that the color has changed again? So whatever you put here, you are telling me that if this condition is satisfied, please do this formatting for me on that selected rows. And basically that's what I did. Then you click on done. So anytime I do this, that is what you have. So this thing is, as you practice with it, you just be learning and all of that. So it's just that. I think I've answered your question, Sheyi. Have I?
Yes, it has. Thank you.
Awesome. Now let's go on to the analysis part. Now, before we talk about count, what does count mean? Now, there's a function in Excel called count. What does it do? It does this. It returns the number of numeric values in a data set. All right, I just got an information that some people are raising their hands. I think RMA, please help me if there is any important question I need to attend to as we move on. All right, thank you so much. So what does count do, really? Like I put here, it returns the number of numeric values in a data set. It returns the number of numeric values in a data set. And I'm going to tell you what that means. If I have 6 here, and I have TO here, I have 7 here, 7 and 9 there. Now, if I want to count here, if I use the count function, it will only count the digits there, the numeric value. It will not count the non-numeric value. So if I count this using this count function, I should have 3. Now let's check. Let me do equal to here and put the count function, open the brackets, and it's asking me what values do you want to count, and I light everything here, close my bracket, enter. How many numeric values are here? 3. It did not count the non-numeric values. So be careful of the way you use count. If you want it to count everything you have, you can't use it. It only counts numeric values. Now, how do you count every input in a row, whether number or non-numbers? That's when you use count A. Count A. Count A counts everything in that group that you have highlighted, anything. So far it is not empty. Even whatever it is going to count. So let's count now. Let's just count A and see. Count A to the same sets, and let's see. Can you see that it is 4? So using count A counts both numeric, non-numeric, and non-numeric values, as long as the cell is not empty. So we will use these functions, just jot them down as we go to analyze and do some wonderful work and analysis on this data. Now, another thing you need to know as a quick fix is the function called if. If. Can someone read to me what if function does as I have in this cell? Emmanuel. Is Emmanuel with us? Adana, please. Adana is raising her hand. Okay, Manuel, go ahead.
Return a conditional count across a range.
If return, yes, can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes.
If returns a conditional count across a range.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. This is not supposed to be for if. Sorry. Specified based on criteria met. Okay, I will explain what this means. Now, this is how the if function works. Equal to if. Let's see the syntax first. If I click on if, logical expression. There must be a logical expression. Now, what does logical expression mean? What you want to do, or whatever you are trying to insinuate. Now, if that logical expression that you want to insinuate is correct, that is when you go to value if true. If it is correct, what should it return? That's value if true, this second one. If it is not, what should it return if it is false? Now, we'll do a quick one now. Let me do if the value of this cell is equal to 4. Just check what I want to do. I'm asking if any value in this cell is equal to 4. That's my logical expression. I want to check if the value is equal to 4. Then I've imputed that. That's why it's highlighted logical expression. What's the next thing I need to put? Comma. Now, if the value is true, that is, if the value in that cell is equal to 4, what do I want to show up in this cell? I want it to show that if it is equal to 4, let it show great. Don't forget, I said if you want to type a text in a formula, you must put it in quotation, double quotation mark. So if the value there is equal to 4, put a grade. That is if it is equal. Now, this is not complete. I must put, if it is not equal to 4, what should I put? So I put a comma. If it is not equal to 4, I want you to put error or something. Put it. Then I close my brackets. Now let's see it again. It has 3 arguments. The logical expression, comma, the value that should return if it is true, comma, and the value that should return if it is false. So if I click on enter, why does this give me grade? It gave me grade because the value here is 4. Now let me put something else. 5. It gives me error. So it does 2 things. If my logical expression is true, according to what I define, what should it return for me? And if it is not, what should it return? So this if function is one of the most used functions in analyzing. We'll see how that works as we go. Now, the next one I want us to talk about quickly is the unique function. Now, unique returns unique rows in the provided source range, discarding duplicates. Discarding duplicates. Now, if I come to this data here, you can see that I have Ajeromi Feludu listed here, and down here I have Ikeja. If I have a row of million data and I just want to know the LGAs that imputed this, instead of scrolling to see all the edges and bring them out one by one, the unique function will help me bring in the unique values that are in that range. The unique value needs a range to work. So what I just do is type unique, open the bracket, then go to that data part, then I will highlight all my rows that I want to work on. just to get all the unique data that are there. Close your bracket. Unique function needs only one argument to work. So when you click on enter, it brings out just the unique values that are repeated 100 times in that range of cells that I applied. Now let me see, let me apply this to, let me apply to row C. Let me just change this to C. It should give me all the supervisors that I have on this part. You can see. Excuse me. Column C has names of supervisors repeated over and over again. So what does it do? It just returns all the unique values that are there. And that's what unique does. Return all the unique values. Now we'll see the beauty of this as we go on. Now count if. We have learned about count A to count anything. Count if. I want to count conditionally. I want to count the number of, now good. I have the supervisor's name here. I just want to know how many schools does Promise Adego have. Instead of counting manually, I can use count if to help me. Count if is a combination of count and if function. Let's see how it works. Equals to count if brackets. When you write your equal to, you put your function name, you open your bracket. And don't forget to always close your bracket. Now range. I want you to count what range. Count if use only two arguments, range and the criterion. The criteria with which you want it to count. Now what range do I want to count? I want to count the supervisor's row, which is C. The supervisor's row, which is C to C. Okay. C2 is actually C to C103. But you can do C to C if you are still imputing data under it. C to C means all the rows in column C. So if I do that, I've put my range, I'll put my comma. Go back to that sheet. Now I've put my comma. He's now asking me, what condition should I count? What type of data should I count in this set of range that it has highlighted? Now I want you to count the number of schools attached to Promise Adigo. And good, the name is here. I'll just click in this cell showing Promise's name. So what I'm telling it is, the range is this, the criteria is this, which is Adego Promise. I can manually type the name Adego Promise in invite and in quotation mark. Don't forget, if I'm putting text in a formula, it must be in quotation mark. But I already have it here, so let me just select the cell, which is L9. Then I close my bracket, click enter. In short, Google Sheet is so wise and it's suggesting for me that, do you want to do the same for all the values here? That's what I want to do. I'll just click the tick sign. So what has this done? It has counted the number of Adegos in this, Promise Adegos in this column. And let's count manually. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Does that equal to 12? 12. Awesome. And he did it for Samuel too. Same range, but L10 now, because Ademuyiwa Samuel is on L10 and all of that. So it counts based on a criteria you are given. That's what it does. Now, sum. If you have any question, please let me know. Now, for sum, as the name sounds, it adds up. It sum values, that is numbers together. You can't sum text, right? You understand? Sums value. Let's say I want to know the sum of all the schools of all these numbers. Just click sum, open bracket, highlight all the range you want it to sum, close your bracket and click enter. It sums that for you automatically. And that's what sum does anyways. That's straightforward. Now, sum if. That's where I want to go now. Sum if. Sum if works like count if. Count if says count this range based on this criteria that I've specified. Same thing with sum if. Sum this range based on this criteria I want to specify. Now, if I type sum if, I open my bracket, it tells me the argument needed, the range that I want to sum. Then the criteria of that my range. Then the last one here in brackets, sum range. The column where those numbers I want to sum are listed. Criteria, range of my criteria, the range I want to sum. Okay. Now let's say I want to sum okay, let me go to the data. Let's say we want to sum the number of pupil count for each supervisor. We want to add them up and say, oh, for all the schools that belong to Adego Promise, how many pupils do they have? For all the schools that belong to Samuel, how many pupils? Instead of doing manually, sum if can help. So what I just do is I'll type my sum if, open my bracket. Where is the range where their names are? I go to my data. Their names are listed, my supervisor's names are listed on column C. I can just click the top of the column, it will highlight everything in that column. That is the range of my criteria. Then comma, come back to that sheet. Now, what in this column of names, which name should I consider? And thank God I've already imputed Adigo's name here. I can just click it here. I'm telling it in the column of all names, select only for promise. That is my criterion. Select only for that first person. Then I put my comma. Now, what range is what I want to sum up is? I go back to my data. This is the range of my summation, which is age. I'll just click on that age. And I close it. Now, let me explain again. I want it to sum every pupil count that belongs to promise. First, I'll put the range where all the names are. Then I put the promises name, which is my criteria. Then I say, now go and sum up the pupil count for every pupil that belongs to promise. Then I click enter. And it gives me the value 5,342. Now, let's be sure that that formula is correct. I want to highlight all promises school to the last one. If you see, I've highlighted all the schools and the pupil counts belonging to promise. If you look at the bottom here, there's a quick analysis here saying sum, which is what? What can you see, please? KSC. Sum equals what? Is it visible on your end? What can you see the number here? Anybody just some names here?
5,342.
I can't
342. Correct.
250.
Thank you very much. Now, what it does, this is what we call auto analysis. By just highlighting, I can see that it has summed up to this. If you click the arrow, you can do other things. You might want to check the average of the highlighted range, minimum value there, maximum value there, the count, and all of that. So that is my sum if. That is my sum if. Sum a range of cells based on a criteria that you specify. And you know what? I can just drag this formula down. Who knows what will happen? It will sum for me based on the value for Ademiwa Samuel. And it goes on and on like that. Okay, we're going to do our own activity. Let's just talk about all this. Average. What does average do? Average function returns the numerical average of a data set, ignoring text. This average too does not work with text, with names or whatever. It works with figures, just like sum. So let me just type in average, close the bracket, and I want to find the average of all the pupil counts here. I'll just highlight everything and close the bracket. Average of hello, who is that?
Your screen, sir. I can no longer see your screen.
It is showing.
I can no longer see my
It's
screen.
showing here. It is showing.
Check your end.
I can see.
Okay.
I can see your screen.
Charles, check your end.
Who said it cannot see my screen?
It's me, sir, Charles.
Charles.
Sir, yes, sir. I'll log out and log in again.
Can you see it?
Let me. I guess it's from my network, sir. Let me log out and log in. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. That is average. Instead of summing, you might want to know the average, of the pupil count have. Now, average if works like sum if, count if. That's why I said if is one of the strongest functions in spreadsheets. It helps you add some conditions to what you are doing. So average if, same way as sum if, I might want to find the average of the schools belonging to Promise. So I'll just type average if, open the bracket, the criteria range, in short. Instead of typing again, let me just do this. My sum if formula here, I can just copy it and paste it here and change it to average if, because they do virtually the same thing, but one is summing, one is finding average. And I click enter. Same way. So it's going to find the average based on the criteria that I've measured. So same way as sum with did the sum for all the schools belonging to Promise, this is doing the average for all the schools belonging to Promise. That's that about average. Now max. Max is a short form for maximum. What this does is it gives you the maximum value in your data set, the biggest value in your data set. And I want to know the biggest value in this data set. All right, so if I click on enter, it tells me that in this my set of data, the largest one is 559. Okay, I think I've made it a little bigger now. 559. And mean does the opposite. Mean does the opposite. It just gives the minimum value in the set. Okay, let me just change this to mean. I just changed this one to mean. Now you see when all this formula comes in handy. Now, this gives the maximum, this gives the minimum. And the last thing we want to talk before we do some exercises is filter. I might be interested in a particular set of data, not all the data. Now, I'll explain what that means now. If I go back to my data set, there's a column here saying live in Alimosho. And I want to know, and I want to bring out the values or the set of data for those people living in Alimosho only. And this is a 1 million row data. So I can filter out that and do some work on it. And that's where the filter function comes in. All right, let's do it here. Filter. Filter has minimum of 2 arguments, maximum of up to 30. But the first one is range. Where is your range of data you want to filter from? Where is it? So I go to my data tab and I highlight all these cells I want to include in this my filter from A to, let's say, H. A to H. I want to filter only the values for people living in Alimosho. That's my range. Now, what condition? People living in Alimosho. Where do I have the data of people living in Alimosho residing? That's column I. So what I'll just do is I'll click on column I. I'm clicking the top of the column so that I can highlight everything. If my data increases, it will capture it. So my condition is in column I, but which values in column I? That's when I'll say if the data in column I equals, don't forget that I said anybody that clicked yes here means done when I'm doing the validation. So any box that is ticked is actually referencing done. So if I say, excuse me, if let me check again. Oh, it's yes, sorry. It's not done. Okay, let me just adjust it to yes. So anybody that I click refers to yes. That means that person resides in Alimosho. You can see what it has brought out for me. It has brought out the data, the replica of the data on that sheet, but only for those people living in Alimosho that clicked on yes. So these are only the data for people living in Alimosho. I might not want to work on all the data. I just want to work on people living in Alimosho. So this filter value formula brings out all the data for people that has a yes on column I. Don't forget that when it is clicked, it is yes. And when it is not clicked, it's a no. This one that is not clicked is no. So if we ignore all the no's and return all the data of the yeses, then I can now work on this part of the data instead of working on the bulk of the whole sheet. Let's say we have the whole of Eco Excel schools, and I only want to work on Nigerian Mayfield. I'll just say, please filter out all the data points, but for only a Jeremy Fellow group. And that's how the filter function works. We must filter out what we need. So these are the functions we'll be working with now. Talk about count. Count A, if, unique, count if, sum, average, if, and up to filter. Now, I want to stop here. I want to take questions for 5 minutes. Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Before we go to our task. Please say your name so that I can know who's talking. Are that right?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Gbenga, from the activities that you've shown us, I can see that your to-do list is on tab 2 and your data is on tab 1. So on a normal day, if a supervisor like me, if I'm to do data like this, I don't know how to put my formula in a way that it will be reflecting for me. It will be reflecting that I want to actually validate the data for tab A. Without it, because if I might just do, okay, if I want to do like if now, it will just be showing, it will be reflecting on that current tab I am. So how do I put it in a way that I want to reflect on tab A, but I want to validate the data for tab A, but I want to use tab B, that's to-do list sheet on its own. I don't know if you get the question.
I get you clearly. I think I missed that part, and thank you for bringing it. Very important question. Very, very important question. Okay, I'll take this example, for instance. This sum if portion, if I see where my cursor is. The values I was using is not on the same page with my data. Now, let's all come to this. I'm going to increase this. Come to this formula bar up here, showing here. I don't know why this one is not increasing. Now, I'm going to analyze what that means. My data is on another sheet that I'm referencing for this formula. First thing I need to do is just that when I click automatically, it brought it for me. But if it's not bringing automatically like that, probably you're working in tab. This is how to address it. First thing you will need to do is, what is the name of that sheet you want to reference? In this case, the name of the sheet is data. After your bracket, type in data. Then after the data, put an exclamation mark. If you make a mistake in the spelling of the sheet name, you will get it wrong result. So you must spell it the way it is written, but you must put an exclamation mark. What exclamation mark means in spreadsheet is you are referencing a sheet name. That's what that exclamation mark is. Don't miss it. Now, on that sheet, which column are you referencing? Then you put the column. In this case, I'm referencing all the data in C column. So I don't need to type C2 to C5. If you're only C2 to C5, you can do C2 to C5 or C whatever, or C7 as the case is. But in this case, I reference the whole of the column. So if my data is increasing as data are coming in, it will be picking it with and in this formula. So first thing you are referencing in another sheet, type the sheet name, put an exclamation, then the row or range you are referencing. Then it will pick it automatically. Now, sometimes, if the tab you are referencing has more than 2 words, you won't just do this. Like, for example, to do list is a combination of 3 words. If I'm referencing to do lists, this is what I will do. To do list. I must put single quotes at the beginning and the end. What is telling it is that you are referencing another sheet, but it has space in between. To do lists is more than just a straightforward value. Now, to avoid all of this, what data analysts do mostly is they don't put space in between their sheet names. If they want to put names, they will use what is it called? they will use, dash to join it together so that they won't need to be remembering to put this single quote in front and at the back. Do you understand what I'm saying? So all you just need to do is put the sheet name. In this case, data is one word. Put the sheet name, put exclamation mark, put the rows. It will go and pick that data from that sheet you have specified. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Awesome. Any other
And
person?
I have another question too.
Okay,
Can you
please
hear
do.
me?
Clearly.
Okay, so mostly can these activities be done effectively using a tab like our normal Samsung tab, or using a computer or a laptop, which is better for easy
All right.
data analysis?
Okay. Now I'll answer it in two ways. It can be done on your tab successfully. But if I'm answering which is better, I will say the computer is better. Because working on your mobile app, thank God for Google, we can work on mobile app, but there are still some limitations. There are still some limits to what you can do on the mobile that you can do on the desktop. But everything I've done now will work on your mobile Samsung tab correctly. It will work and to give you the data you are looking for. But for bigger analysis, for some greater in-depth analysis, it's better to use a computer. All right, other question? Okay, if there are no other questions, this is what we want to do now. I'm going to do this in 5 minutes. Then I will show you how we can answer business problems based on this. Before I do that, I'm going to show you what we'll be working on. It's on this tab. And let me unhide the sheets. And this is where you will see the beauty of you knowing how to analyze your data. This is the data everybody will be working on. And what you will do is I will share it with you. Then you will make a copy for your group. I will need the group leader to take charge now. When I share that, make a copy for your group and you answer these questions. Don't forget the groupings are here. We'll answer these questions this way. And I'm going to explain this. Then I'll do my own summary. Then you do your own summary. Now, in column A and B, I highlighted columns and data type. For you to know the kind of data that is needed for each column. The regional manager column is a string. A string means combination of text and all of that. So that means, if I go back here, is words. Combination of text and characters like that is a string. The L&D supervisor to string. The head teacher name is a string too. Now, I have imputed on this sheet all the 1011 schools we have with their supervisors, school ID, school name. You will need to complete this by adding the following columns. I stopped at school name. I stopped here. So you are going to add a teacher name. Under a teacher name, the data type will be a string name. Then on the next column, you are going to put this question. Is there an assistant head teacher? And the data type for that one is a Boolean kind, is yes or no. So you are going to validate that column with yes or no, so that nobody can impute any other thing. On the next column, you ask the question, is there a teacher gap? Validate again for yes or no. Then on the next one, most teachers leave. Then the column will be validated with what? Far and near. The column name title is most teachers live far and near. So validated with far and near. The next column we have number of teachers. Now, I'm not asking you for the accurate figures of all the schools. Just put a figure there. I just want us to learn how to analyze. So don't be calling your head teacher, be asking for this question. You are the head teacher here. Just, I can tell you how to generate numbers at random. I'll show you that. So it might not necessarily be what is happening in your school. Just put any value there. It's the analysis I'm interested in. Now, number of teachers, teaching or non-teaching, that's the total number. That must be a number, a whole number. Percentage of non-teaching staff taking classes. That one will be in percentage. Maybe, okay, 30% of our teachers are non-teaching. 50% of our teachers are non-teaching. Now, average number of pupils per class. The entry will be a decimal, values between 10 and 60. So you can't put any value less than 10. You can't put any value higher than 60. The maximum we can have in our classes in the quiz is 60, right? So you can put any value in between. It might not necessarily be the true picture. It's the analysis that we're interested in. Now, percentage lesson completed KPI. In that school for last term, what's the percentage overall for the school lesson completed? So put it, this one in percentage, let's say is 75%. That's what will be in that column, percentage. We do the same thing for school leader present, school leader arrived and departed on time up until the last one. This will be your column headers. This will be the type of data that will be there. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns have been done for you, so you do the rest. That's the first thing. So when we include those data, random data, then we come and create a summary page. I'll show you how to do that in a minute, but have an idea of what you want to do before I show you so you'll be understanding as I'm doing it. On the summary page, we are going to answer these questions. We are going to create a summary page that shows all the LGAs. I'll put a clue here. Use the unique function to extract all the LGAs. So all you just do is use the unique function on this column C to attract all the unique LGAs. That's task 1. 2, number of schools in each LGA. Count if will help us. Count if, use count if function on the schools with the extracted LGA. Now we have extracted our LGAs. In front of each LGA, just put a count if function, which we say count the number of schools based on the LGA. That's number 2. Now the third one will be use unique function to extract regional manager. Straightforward. Then use count if function on the schools with the extracted regional manager. So the regional manager will be criteria for this count if now. We do the same for how many schools have assistant head teachers and how many don't have. So we use count if to count the number of, don't forget there's a question here that says, is there an assistant head teacher? So we use the counting function to count the number of yes. The number of yeses that we have means they have assistant head teacher. The number of no's means they don't have assistant head teacher. So you'll be counting yes or no and no on this column. Now the other one, what is the percentage of schools without teacher gap? There's a question addressing that. Is there teacher gap? Yes or no. So you'll be doing count if of yes and no on this. Now, like I wrote here, count if yes and no on the column is there teacher gap, then of the yes and of the no from the total. So from the total now, if there are 10 yeses, and the total number of schools we are considering is 1011. So we just do the average. 10. We just do the average, something like this. This divided by this, which is 0.009. But I want it to be in percentage. So go to your tab here, you'll see format as percent here. If I click on it, it will show it as percentage. So divide and choose as percentage. Don't worry, we'll do this fast now. You'll see how we do it. So next, what is the average number of pupils per class? There's a question addressing that here. Average number of pupils per class. So we just use the average if function to find the average number of pupils. What is the average number of people per class? Okay, we just use the average if function for that. Now 8, I like the total number of teachers under each supervisor. So first, extract all the names of supervisor. Use count if to extract number of schools for each supervisor. And the nice one, which supervisor in your region have the highest average KPIs in each of the 8 KPIs? Now, this is it. Your region might be Ajeromi. So you are going to filter out for your region and work on your region only to get the average KPI for this. And the last one, just create another tab that shows the data of schools with teacher gap only. So you're going to filter out all the data, but where there is a yes under teacher gap. Exactly the same thing I showed you at that time. That's what will be on the summary page. Now, the beauty of data analysis makes us answer business questions and profile solution. I've put some questions here that MD wants us to answer. And we will do this together using this data. Now, group 1 will be working on MD needs to take action on the target to set for all KPIs. Last academic session, all KPIs were set at 85%. Use the data to justify why or why not the data set should be the same for all KPIs. This is where data comes in. Assumption that last term, based on this data, when you have imputed this data, you have filled it up with all the columns, and MD is saying, I'm thinking of we changing all our KPIs from flat rate to different ranges based on how the performance was last term. So what should we be considering here? What I'm thinking in my head is, okay, there are KPIs values here. When we look at all the averages of the KPIs, do we see a form of discrepancy or a wide margin from 85%? Let's say you put all the KPIs together, you do the average, and you find out that average lesson completion for lesson completion is 52. When you put all the schools together, and it was 85 we used last time. For teacher present, we use 85, but our teachers, surpass that. They are in 90s. Does it now make more sense to put everybody, all the KPIs on the same range? From your data, you will see the variation and you can advise. I have done the analysis on the average of each data. The disparity of each KPI is different. So I advise that we vary the percentages of the KPIs if your data shows that. If your data does not show that, we can still, use the same value across board. Just look at what your data is saying and bring out a suggestion for this. So what we are doing is we'll be using this data to answer business questions. Group 1 will be doing something like this. During leadership meeting, it was mentioned that schools with assistant head teachers are likely to have a higher LTO and STO because they think the assistant head teachers help out with the observation. Use your data to support or oppose this. Now, the beauty of data analysis is we don't want to rely on gut instinct. We don't want to rely on assumption. It's an assumption that because there's assistant head teachers, they help out. Does the data really show that? So what this group will be concentrating on is LTOs. Check the average percentage for the LTO and check whether the schools with assistant head teachers have a higher LTO and STO than schools with no assistant head teachers. If there's no significant difference, then this insinuation is not correct. So you just conclude by saying, after checking the relationship, having a head teacher does not really mean having a higher, having an assistant teacher does not really mean having a higher LTO or STO. So whatever your data says is what you will put there. Remember, you don't need to go and change your data to suit the response. If it does, put it there. If it doesn't, put it there. We just want to work on the data alone. So group 3, there's an hypothesis that teachers' distance from school affects percentage teacher arrive and departed on time. On the average, everybody will think it does affect. But does the data say the same thing? So what I want to check is, concentrate on the part of KPI of teacher arrived and departed on time. Then just oppose it with most teachers live far and near. Now compare find the average of teachers that live near and the average of teachers that live far. If there's intangible difference, living far does not mean teachers are coming late. Or if there's a wide difference, then you can conclude by saying, really, based on this data, teachers living far always, schools with teachers living far, they always have low teacher arrived and departed on time. So, for group 4, schools with 50 plus average pupil per class tend to have a low lesson completion. Same way, check lesson completion, just opposite with average number per class and see whether people having lower than 50 always have less lesson completion. So we will be answering this business question using purely data, and that's what we will be doing. So group 6, we work on theirs. Group 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'll bring more clarity to this when we get to that point. But for now, I want to do a summary for this. And that's what you'll be doing first. Summary, I've created a summary page here. And in my summary, based on what you two will be doing, I want to find out, first and foremost, okay, this is my summary. First and foremost, how many LGAs are we talking about? What are the LGAs that this data set has? How do I extract all the LGAs in this data? Who knows the function that will help me extract all the distinct LGAs I have here? Which function will help me with that? Who's the first person to say it? Anybody raising hands?
Unique.
Juliana.
Yes, sir.
The unique function.
The unique function will help me extract all the LGA. Correct. Unique function. So I'm going to type, okay, let me label it first. LGAs. And under it, I'll just use unique. Unique will help me extract all the unique values here. I don't want to use A to A because it will include change my first A to A2. I want the data to start at A2 to exclude the header and to A to any value below. Then I will click on enter. So it has brought out all the LGAs in my data set. Can you see that? Now, in this LGA, how many schools are there in each LGA? Now, I want to know the number of schools in each LGAs. School count. School count. Now, be thinking, what will help me to know the number of schools in each LGA? What function? Count if. Thank you very much. Count if function. Now let's do it together. Equal to, type your count if, put your bracket. Now count if needs a range. So what range? Range of the schools, right? Oh, awesome. Now I want to count how many schools are under each LGA. So all I just want to do is I will come to the LGAs tab and count for each local government. So I'll come here. I'll select my A2. Let me change this to A2. No, it does not even matter because I'm counting based on the criteria. I won't pick that. That's my range. I put my comma. What is the criteria that I'm using? Sorry. What's the criteria that I'm using? I want it to count all the Ajeromi Felodins there. And Ajeromi Felodin is already here. So I just click this. And I close my brackets. And I click enter. You can see that Google Sheet is wise. It's suggesting to me, do you want to pull this formula down? I'll just say yes, thank you. You know what I wanted to do. So this has helped me to get the values of the number of counts for each LGA. Let me just centralize this. All right. Now, Ajeromi has 71 schools. Ikeja has 31 schools. Now, if I want to know the number of schools put together, what function am I going to use? Sum. Sum function. Thank you. Can use sum function. In short, why typing the sum? It's so intelligent that it has picked it for me. Guy, I know what you want to do. This is what you want to sum. I just clicked on OK. Now, there are two LGAs here. There are two LGAs and 102 schools. Now, if I want to find out in each of the LGAs, what are the supervisors there? What are the number of schools they have? Now, let me go to another part and type supervisors. Now, I'm doing this so that I'll be using combination of all the formulas you will need to do your tasks. Supervisors. I want to bring out all the unique names of the supervisors. I'm going to use root function. I've already said it, unique. Awesome. Then I go to the data. I click on where the supervisors are. I won't want to include the header, so I will change it. Otherwise, to bring out that for me, I will change this. I will add 2 to this to start from C2 to C to the last value. So it brings out all the supervisors' name for me. So I don't need to be typing their names normally. Who knows why? I know these supervisors. I might as well want to type them manually.
Who knows why it's not advisable to type them manually?
Olusegun. Olusegun.
It's not. I can't hear you clearly. Okay, I said it is not advisable to type their names and in, because you can make a typo error and that will affect your validations and formulas in the future.
In short, fantastic cheer for you. Thank you very much. I can make a typo error, or I mistakenly put a space. Now, let me show you that. I'll show you that there's a difference between this and this. Do you agree? You can't do, but there's a difference there, and I'll show you.
I'll use a function called len, which helps me to find the length,
the number of characters I have here. If I click enter, it's telling me I have 6 characters here. Now let me do it here. There's 7 characters here, 6 characters here. Who knows where the 7th one? What the 7th one is for this first one?
There's a space. Awesome. If I click inside the cell, you see there's a space, or I click inside the formula bar up here. There's the A, and where the cursor is blinking. So anytime I want to reference Gbenga in another formula, it will throw up an error or give a wrong impression. And that's the reason why we validate some cells, so that someone will not type yes like this. Another person will now type his own yes like this. Yes, with space, 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 space.
And to the ordinary eye, is yes, yes. But it will affect your formula. That's why it's good to draw the data from the data set, just the way the data is arranged there. Then we begin to do our analysis. Now, these supervisors, they have schools too, right? Let's say I want to know the count of their schools. Just the same way we did here. What formula am I using? Counting.
Safe.
Awesome. Okay, I think we have really dealt with count if and all of that. We'll go to another one now. Let's just finish with this range. Now let me just count them and remove the header. It does not even matter. It only counts for promise. So I'm defining what to count now. What should they count? Count the number of times this name appeared. Now showing me 12. And it's suggesting, do you want to do the same for others? Just click this. Awesome. This guy is smart. He knows what I want. He knows what I want. So I've been able to summarize this. Now, I now know the count of the number of schools supervisor have and all of that. See, there's a business problem I have here. MD requests that supervisors who live in Alimosho struggle to get to work early because of their long distance to work. This in turn has an adverse effect on them, driving their school's attendance and other KPIs. Kindly check this assertion with the available data. Prefer solution based on the data outputs. What does this mean? Supervisors living in Alimosho, how is their schools faring? If they are performing so low, could it be that because they too, they live very far from where they work, that's why they are performing low? So I'm going to just suppose that with supervisors not living in Alimosho, if there's no difference, then I can discard that this assertion is incorrect, like some of the questions I showed you earlier. Now, on my data, there's a portion that says
live in Alimosho. The supervisors that live in Alimosho have already been checked here. So I'll be so intentional on analyzing the supervisors that live in Alimosho and comparing the data with supervisors that don't live in Alimosho. But before I do that, I put a formula here called RAND formula. Anytime RAND formula generates random numbers for me, but the implication is this: anytime I work on the sheet, the number will change. It keeps on changing. It's a volatile function. And I use RAND here. And what does RAND do? RAND gives you a random value between 0 and 1. And you know, percentage is between 0 and 1. So anytime I click enter, it gives me a value between 0 and 1. So what I did was to now insert in this row, I selected that change all the decimals to percentage. So I've already clicked this. So you might want to do the same for your own to generate random number. For all your percentages, use RAND function. Then it will give you, if I use RAND function, look at what it will give me. Let me do it on this space. RAND. Enter. It has given me series of numbers between zeros and ones. So what I'll just do is I will now, highlight everything and represent it as a percentage. I'll now click on percentage. So it gives me a percentage. If I want to remove the decimal places, I can come here and remove the decimal places. You can see that anytime I do anything, it changes the value. It's a volatile function, but I'll tell you how to copy that. So for pupil count, I didn't use RAND. RAND gives values between zeros and ones. I used RAND between because I want to get numbers, not just percentage for this one. So I just RAND between, ask for 2 arguments. Okay, I should give you a random number between 2. What's the lowest number? I say between 250, 600. So if you watch every value here, it's between that 250 and 600. But anytime I do anything, it keeps on changing. So what will I do? Because it's volatile, I will now copy everything. I will copy everything now. Copy. The formulas are there, but I will now paste back on that same formulas. Now I will paste as values. If I paste back on that formula, all the formulas are gone, except the values. Can you see that? So that's a sweet and fast way to generate random data instead of typing one after the other. But if I had not done it this way, as I'm doing every other thing, it's a volatile function, it keeps on changing. So that is that. Okay. I want to answer that business question. But before I do that, let me just do average. What's the average lesson completion for each of these supervisors? Average lesson completion percentage. Average percentage lesson completion for each of these supervisors. Who knows the function I'm going to use?
Average.
What do you say? Who's speaking?
Average.
Average.
Okay. Now,
Average if.
Average if. Thank you. The if now is I want to limit it to this person. I've added the condition. But if I want to find the general average, I can just do this. I can just do the average of LC. I will just do the normal average. average. Then I go to where the LC is, lesson completion. I'll select the first one to the last one. And I close my bracket, I click on enter. This is the average lesson completion that this team has. Pretty low, Abby. Okay. The random value, that's not the average lesson completion that team has. All right, now I want to get for each supervisor, there's a condition now. So I'm not going to use average alone, I'll use average if. Average if. Now, average if, criteria range, the average range you want to find the average. I'm dealing with supervisors. So my first range will be the supervisors column. Supervisors column. Where do I have my supervisor's name? Column C. Put a comma. Then criteria. Now, I want it to pick only for this guy. I'll click in this. I could have typed it manually, but I already have the name here. And we already have advised to use this. I click this guy. Now, what should it, where are the sums, the numbers to find the average? Where are they? So I go back to my data. Because I'm dealing with lesson completion, I'll select the column for lesson completion. Supervisor's name, comma. My first supervisor on this list, I will click that. A comma signifies the end of an argument and the start of the next. So then I will now click the range of lesson completed. So I am done. When you are done, click on enter. And that's giving the average. So what do I do? How do I change it to percentage? I can just click here and just change it to percentage for me. So to do for others, I will just drag it down. And this forms the average of each supervisor's lesson completion. So if I want to do for another KPI, I do the same, I do the same, I do the same. Do we understand up until this part? If you have any question, please ask now. All right. Otherwise, let's answer this question. Supervisor living in Alimosho. I might want to filter out supervisors living in Alimosho separately and supervisors not living in Alimosho. Now, let me first of all bring supervisors living in Alimosho here. Supervisors living in Alimosho. Yeah, I'm rounding up now. How do I get the data for all the supervisors living in Alimosho? What formula do I use?
Unique formula.
Yes.
You use a unique formula.
Yes, I want to filter only the values of people living in Alimosho. So I will use a filter function. And filter function works with range and condition. So what is the range I want to pull out here? I want to pull out all the data from A to H, right? I've highlighted A to H. But what is the condition? I want to pull out A to H where I, which is where supervisors are living, is equal to yes. Don't forget, you must put yes in quotation mark. Click enter. It has brought only the values of people living in Alimosho. I can copy this header. And put it here. So this is for people living in Alimosho. So if I want to do for people not living in Alimosho, all I just need to do is change this one to what? To no. No. Then it pulls for people living in Alimosho. and people not living in Alimon. So I can work on this separately, find the average, and check whether the other one can justify that. There's no significant difference, so where they live does not matter their performance. And if there's a wide difference, then I can also conclude. So I'll be using that to answer this business problem. And I think that's where I'm going to stop for today. Before anybody asks any question, again, this is what we'll be working on. I'm going to stop now. We will now break into our groups. These are our groups. I'm not sure if faculty will come together. We'll do number one, answer all the summary questions, then answer the group one business question. So group two people will do the summary. Everybody will answer the summary questions. Everybody will answer the summary question 1 to 10. But you will choose your group for the business question. So group 2 will answer this, group 8 this, and group 10 that, like that. We try to justify why this is so or not. So this is a task we will do for the next 2 hours when we break into our groups now. So we will leave this larger group when I say we should go, then we'll converge immediately in our smaller groups and work on this assignment. Do I have any question? Let me ask if there's any question.
Okay. If you have any question, okay. Ozia is raising hands.
Okay, so
please ask your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so the link to this particular sheet, can we have it?
Sure. I will share you the two.
The one I use and the one you will use.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, this is where I stop. If you have any other question, you can chat me up.